welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. My name is Carl Gronberg, host for the program, and we wish you and yours a Merry Christmas, and that's what our program today is all about. We're going to talk about Christmas. Christmas as reflected in the Austin community through the variety of cultures that we have in our city and in our area. So we hope you'll stay with us because we think you're going to enjoy this very special presentation on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
I'm one of those persons, maybe like you, who loves Christmas, and I love Christmas for a lot of reasons. I love to remember the Christmases when I was a child. I love the Christmases when people I know share their heritage and their tradition. The community where we live, the Austin area in Central Texas, is rich with a variety of cultures. And Christmas is one of those holidays and festivals that is celebrated by peoples around the world. So we've done this for many times on Austin Faith Dialogue. We've invited some of those people from Austin and Central Texas who grew up in other places and have other traditions and heritage, who are sharing that Christmas joy and that Christmas message with us. I'd like you to meet Olga from Czechoslovakia, and Peter from Czechoslovakia, and Tutti from Denmark. First generation Dane, right?
Yes.
Mom and dad were immigrants from Denmark.
Yes, married there.
Yeah. And Peter, you and Olga, when did you come to the United States?
1969.
First spring day.
Wonderful. The reason so our Austin Faith Dialogue audience will understand is that before we went on the air, we were talking about that, and Olga had to remind this good man when they did arrive in America. Tell us a little about it. You said you were an authentic Czechoslovakian. Tell us about what it was like to grow up there. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in tiny village. My house number was 42, and that was the highest number in the village. So it was a very tiny village, and I think because of the small village, the Christmas was even that more pleasurable. I remember I don't remember as a tiny child, but I remember when I was bigger. First, it would start with picking Christmas tree, and it was always my thing to decorate the Christmas tree, and before that, go with my aunt in the woods and get that Christmas tree. And I already picked it in the summertime, and we usually got the one that I was able to pick.
You went out in the summertime into the forest and kind of eyed the tree and then said to your uncle, this is the one that we're going to have?
Yeah.
Ah, you're
but
clever.
My uncle usually said, well, maybe we need to get some different one, because you had to pick tree which didn't grow all alone, some tree that was crowded with some other trees. So I had to pick maybe 2 or 3 and then let him.
I get the idea, Peter, that Christmas tree is important maybe in Czechoslovakia. Is that part of the tradition? How about you? You didn't grow up in a little town, though, did you?
I grew up in Prague, and we used to buy the trees cut and brought it at least a few days before the Christmas Eve to our apartment house, and we used to decorate it right then.
We being the family, that you would do it as a family?
The boys. We had 3 boys in the family, so we were in charge of getting these boxes with the decorations. Everybody was assigned a side of the tree to decorate.
Tutti, what about you? How about the Danes? Do they have a Christmas tree?
Oh, absolutely. We have a Christmas tree, and it is a big production. Christmas is really important in Denmark because it's a festival of lights, because it is so dark in Christmas time during December that every window gets a candle, and we have candles on the Christmas tree. But the Christmas tree is never lit in front of anybody. The father goes and lights the Christmas tree, and then you open up the door, and everybody sees the blazing candles and stuff on it. It's a big production. Our Christmas goes on for the whole month in preparation. And then Christmas Eve, from then on, it's party time.
It's party time, a time to celebrate. And I bet those Danes like to eat. How about the Czechs? Do you all have some pretty good food at Christmas time?
Actually, I would say that Christmas Eve is quite simple food. It's elaborate, but yet simple. The tradition is to have fried fish. It's a carp, and elaborate potato salad that has in it like everything.
Potato salad is interesting. I was at the hospital making calls on parishioners today, and at this one particular medical center here in Austin, they were celebrating today. They had their Christmas party. And I heard this nurse say to the other nurse, well, did you try my favorite potato salad? And I thought, potato salad at Christmas time? It can't be a favorite dish, but it is a favorite dish. Maybe she is Czechoslovakian. Who knows?
It's possible.
It's possible.
Because
So fish and potato salad
and then there is lots of pastries, probably like everywhere else. But the one that is, I would say, most traditional in Czech lands is pastry called Vánočka. It's not pastry, it's actually sweet bread. And it's braided. You do like 4 braids, 4 lines for the bottom, 3, and then 2. So it's like, and I brought a little example. Maybe we can show it later on and share it.
We might invite everybody who's watching the program to come and have some of this. Taylor, you're smiling while your wife is describing all this. Are you, what does the man do? Does the woman do all this baking, or does the man get involved in this preparation?
Man gets the manly charge, actually preparing the carp, because the carp is actually brought in or bought fresh during on the 24th, and every street corner would have these large basins with the live carp, and you purchase it, bring it home, and then you sort of live, and then the manly thing is to kill it. And
the man takes care of preparing the carp.
Cleaning it, and then slicing it to manageable portions so they would be fried in the pan.
That's a good macho thing for the man to do, right? How about in the Danish culture, Tutti? What about the foods there?
Oh, well, our food is a roast goose. If you can't have roast goose, well, then you have roast pork. But that's the 2 main entrees that you have at Christmas time. And of course, for dessert, then in the old days, they used to serve a rice pudding first. But people got so weight conscious and everything that they gave up the rice, and have since kind of developed a rice pudding for dessert, but also an apple pudding. And in each dessert is hidden a whole almond. And of course, then whoever eats, and it was the idea that you should finish those dishes then, because then whoever got the almond got a little prize. But this roast goose is stuffed with prunes and apples. And then we have little brown potatoes that are sweet on the outside, and basically, and lots of pickles. The Danes like pickles, and so pickles went along with that. But then lots of cookies. My mother's favorite saying was, "You must have 9 kinds of cookies every Christmas."
9 kinds.
And we had it.
You live the good life in Denmark. It sounds like those Danes know how to live.
Yeah, even over here. I mean, we had that in my home because I'm first generation, and just 1 year after they came, well, then I was born. So
that's the marvelous part about this, is that the immigrants brought over this heritage, these traditions of Christmas, and actually all the holidays and festivals, and have passed them on to the generations that have followed. And how about you? Do you still prepare all those kind of cookies for your celebration?
Yes, I do. I still go through that same thing, and I've got to have lots of kinds of cookies, and of course then we pass them to neighbors.
Now, in front of television cameras, I'm going to ask you, how about your dear Janet, your daughter? Is she into preparing those kinds of things?
She makes lots of cookies too.
Wow.
Yes, she does.
She
and now,
kind
of course,
carries it on.
With her in Indonesia, she's doing pretty Danish Christmas too.
In Indonesia, isn't that?
Yeah.
It truly is a celebration around the world.
Right.
That is marvelous. Yeah. I was wondering also, this is called Austin Faith Dialogue, so we want to talk a little bit about the faith experience. Christmas has a story to tell, an ancient story of God's love. What about worship? Is there a devotional aspect to the experience in Czechoslovakia for Christmas?
When I was a smaller girl, there was more church going. We usually go to midnight mass. And I imagine that even the next morning, the 25th, there was a mass, but I actually grew up in communist time, so I remember going only to midnight mass. We still kept some faith, but it was more diminished because of the communism.
Right. That's interesting. Communism was the political system at that time, and so you would go to midnight mass. Do you remember? Was it a pretty service? Was it candlelight? Did you have that?
I liked it because it was very nicely decorated, and there was actually there was no Jesus until that next morning. So it was really nice. I enjoyed it. But you know what? Let me tell you something. The tradition in Czech Republic is you don't get presents from Santa. You get presents from little Jesus. So actually, the faith is there, even like for little children, easier to understand.
But didn't you say, Peter, beforehand that you started actually on St. Nicholas Day, December 6th in Czechoslovakia? Is that the beginning of maybe the holiday season then, and St. Nicholas with presents? No? What is?
Well, that you might say actually starts the Christmas festivities with the Saint Nicholas and the angel and the devil symbolizing good and evil, and basically that sort of kicks off the Christmas celebrations and the preparations for it.
I think it's very interesting. I want to have you back sometime to talk about the experience of living in Czechoslovakia during the time of communism and how that affected the culture and the celebrations and the activities that happened there. What else did you do as a family that you can remember? Maybe I know one thing. You said you sang, right? Would you sing at home? Did you as a family sing a song, maybe?
My grandma was great because she would...
What was Grandma's name?
Maria.
Maria.
And Grandma had 4 sons, and they didn't remember the words. And so I remember Grandma, even when I immigrated, they would send me a tape with Christmas carols. And here's Grandma. She was approaching 90. And she was still remembering all the words to all the Christmas carols. So there would be Grandma saying the words, and the sons would sing it. Grandma saying the words, sons would sing it.
Yeah, she was going to get that across to them, wasn't she?
That was really
She
nice.
lives in your heart, doesn't she? That's a special memory of time. Could you sing? We have maybe 1 minute to go, I guess, something like that. Could you sing something in Czech about Jingle Bells or something like that in Czech? Come on, Peter.
Peter, can
Would
you
you like
help me?
to? Would you like to?
Okay, and you will sing it in English?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
just go ahead. For us in
Okay.
Czech.
Rolničky, rolničky, kdo pak vám dal hlas? Gašparek maličký, nebo děda mráz.
Rolničky, rolničky, klidno vonívají. Mamičky, vlastničky, Vánoce a sní.
Yay, Olga, Peter, good for you. And you know what? I doubt many of us would know what you were singing anyway, so the words didn't matter. We hope you'll stay with us in Austin Faith Dialogue as we continue our discussion of cultures and Christmas around the world, because we are sharing together with these dear friends who come to us from Czechoslovakia and also from Denmark. Any other thing that you can share with us that might help us in terms of the Danish experience when it comes to church?
Yes, we definitely have Christmas Eve service, and it's so dark in Denmark that they go between 3:30 and 4 o'clock, and it's a very important service that everyone goes to church first, and then you come home, and we have all our gifts on Christmas Eve. So consequently, then for Christmas Day is always meant for the family to have visitors and to share with what's left over. And
good.
that's why you have to have 9 kinds of cookies.
We're going to continue this with you, Tootie, and some other guests. But Peter, Olga, thanks for being with us. And stay with us in Austin Faith Dialogue as we talk about Christmas cultures around the world. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue. We've been moving people around because we have so many people we want to share with you their Christmas story and their heritage. And now we have Raphael, who's with us from Mexico, and we're going to talk with Raphael. And Tootie is staying with us. She's from Denmark and Danish in background, first-generation Dane. And then we have Neil, and Neil comes all the way from India. And we're really interested in talking to Neil about the Christmas experience in India, because Christianity is a minor religion in India. So Neil, thanks. We're glad you're here. And as I said at the top of the program, that we have so many interesting cultures and traditions in Austin. And it's great on this program at Christmas time to share those with our viewing audience so that we can celebrate all that we bring to the Christmas festival and holiday. What about in Mexico? You live, Rafael, in a place called Chiapas.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what happens there when it comes to be December and Christmas time. Is there excitement? Are the children excited? What happens?
Oh yes, there's a lot of excitement, especially among the children, because they know that Christmas is a time where they get to light firecrackers and they get gifts. There is food, and there is a family time. You know, it's a time for the family to get together. They get visits from relatives.
Do you have, in Mexico, when the people come together, do they start earlier in December? Are there some special days, like we talked about St. Nicholas Day at the top of the program? Is there some other type of festival that starts the Christmas holidays in Mexico?
Yeah, they start about the December 12th, it's the day of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So that's the time when the Posada starts.
The La Posada is a part of the Mexican culture, and it goes until Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, or how does that work?
Yeah, it ends on Christmas Eve when Jesus Christ is born.
Now, would they also look forward to having special foods? Are there any foods that they like to prepare? And then who goes about preparing the food? Is that a husband and wife type experience, or do the children get involved? How do they do that?
Well, my experience is in the countryside. I live near San Cristobal de las Casas. It's a high mountain area, and it's very cold right now there. So the man goes into the forest to gather the firewood to cook, and the woman stays home cooking. If they have some chickens, they cook hens, chickens. But if they have a little money, or they have a turkey is the main dish.
You mentioned about the children. Now, I know Chiapas economics are a problem. There's not a lot of money in terms of the average person having lots of money to buy presents. How do they go about getting presents, and what do they share? Is it more of a religious and a food type thing, or do they actually get some presents?
Both. It's a religious, it's a food, and right now they are harvesting the coffee. The coffee harvest is the best season for them, for the farmers, because they are hired to work in the big coffee farms, so they make a little money to buy presents.
And how do they participate in the religious experience? What they go to Mass, like we talked about in Czechoslovakia, or what do they do?
Yes, we celebrated the 24th. At midnight, there is a Mass for the Roman Catholics, and there is a less percentage of the population who are evangelicals. They have a service around 6 o'clock, so the family can be together around midnight.
And then you mentioned something about the children and firecrackers and fireworks. Is that part of the culture where they set off some fireworks?
Oh yes, and in the main square, in the small villages, they have these big fireworks that they go in the air, and when they are on mid-air, they explode. And sometimes there are lots of lights, and it's like a show to watch this event.
And then do they all say,
Feliz Navidad? Ay, sí, habla español.
Feliz Navidad. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, thank you, Rafael, for taking us to Mexico and letting us celebrate and see a little bit of the life of what it's like to be in Chiapas in Mexico. And let's go to India. Neil, thanks for living in Austin, and thanks for coming and being on Austin Faith Dialogue. You grew up as a Christian in India. You spent 20 years of your life in India. Tell us a little bit about the experience of being a child in India when the culture, the country, is not predominantly Christian. What do the Christians do to celebrate Christmas?
in India, as my childhood experiences are good. Being a Christian in India, we had a wonderful time, especially around Christmas time. So we have the church celebration starts as Advent, so 4 weeks ahead, and we have more of a Christmas spirit. We get that towards 20th around before just before Christmas, and we have presents and we have a Christmas tree, and we do a lot of decorations.
But I want to ask you about the Christmas tree, because that's interesting. We've talked about that. Raphael, I didn't ask you about the Christmas tree. Is that a part of the culture?
Oh, yes, it is.
As I understand that was a Martin Luther idea that kind of got out around, and people like that, the Christmas tree. So what kind of tree do they have in India, like in your home in India?
We have a kind of similar tree like evergreen, a different type of evergreens. So they are very scarcity of trees. We able to find some trees, which is a big tree. We get small branches out of it. So
where did you live? What city in India?
I lived in a city called Guntur. It's in one of the big city in the state of Andhra Pradesh, where it is located in South India.
What percentage of the population of India would be Christian?
About 2% of the total population is Christian. So
would that influence of Christmas in India then spread to the other religious communities? Would it be a holiday for people other than Christians?
It is, as in general, it's a holiday for the other nation. So as other religions also, they have their own holidays. So we have holidays of Christians.
And that's observed by the other groups too?
That's observed by, yes, other groups also.
But you mentioned a tree, and Raphael, you mentioned tree, and Tutti, you mentioned in Denmark tree.
Yes.
And our friends from Czechoslovakia mentioned tree. Now, let's talk about decorating that tree, all right? You brought along some things. Now, these are some decorations. What does this go like that? Is that?
Yes. This hangs on a branch. Actually, this one says Glædelig Jul, which is Merry Christmas in Danish.
Say that again.
Glædelig Jul.
Oh, Glædelig Jul. All right, and then what do we have?
Of course, and this is one of the newer types of candles. They always have had candles on the tree. This just hangs on a branch, and this is one of the newer, more modern ones. And these things are the ones that are absolute necessities on a Danish Christmas tree.
Well, that's a necessity.
And this is the heart. The heart is a really important, significant signal or sign for the Danes. And these, when your children are younger, you fill these things with a little treat, either candies or cookies or something like that. Both of these. This is a klemmerhus, which is like a cone. And these are all hung on the tree. A real necessity. It isn't a Danish Christmas tree unless you have some of these.
And so you brought two of these along because you had two children, so you'd hang them on the tree for your two children.
No, you just make these ahead of time. You make lots of them in different designs. You could braid these all different ways, and everybody makes these before Christmas. And then the Danish flag.
Oh,
the
yeah, I got to give you the
flag
flag.
is a real big, important thing. And these are hung on a string, and they're just like a swag. And they are hung on your Christmas tree. And we've had that ever since I've been young, which has been a lot of years.
I would love to see. I bet your Christmas tree is beautiful.
Well, we think it is.
Yeah, I bet it is.
It's very nice. But these are very important things that go on the tree. We hang the balls and the usual things, and your things on there that your children made in kindergarten. Those are also on the tree, too. But these are imperative that they go on the tree. The candle, the kremhus, the little braided basket, and the flags.
Isn't that exciting, though, Neil, when you think about in Denmark and how they do that, and then we heard about Czechoslovakia. Right. And then in India, would there be some special things? Would you have lights on the tree? Would you do some of those kinds of things?
Yes, we do. Lights and a lot of decorations, Christmas tree decorations. And also we have a lot of Christmas greeting cards. We hang them to the trees.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you would get a greeting card, for instance, a Christmas card, you would take it and hang it on the tree?
Onto the tree.
Nice idea. I think I've often wondered what to do with the Christmas cards. So that's an idea. Put them on the tree. I don't think my wife will let me do that, but it's a good idea. It's a really good idea. What about presents? How about in Denmark, Tutti? Do they exchange presents? And when do they do that type of thing?
We do that on Christmas Eve. The dishes have to be done first, and then everybody has their Christmas presents on Christmas Eve.
You do not open presents if the dishes are
not done.
Okay.
That's right.
Clean up the kitchen, get it
and
all
sometime,
tidy.
at a period of my life when we were younger and my brother was home, we drew toothpicks. We always had company because we were a real small family coming over here. And so we drew toothpicks, and the ones that got the long toothpicks had to help with the dishes, and the short ones got to be excused from the dishes. And so a lot of times we involve the men in doing dishes as well.
Oh, I think it's good training for the
It was
men.
very good training, yes.
Yeah, we'll probably get some mail on that from these men saying, now, wait a minute, wait. How about in India? What do you think? Neil, do you have the presents under the tree, and do you open them on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve?
We do open them on Christmas Day, and after going from a Christmas Eve service, in the morning we do the presents. opening
Okay,
of the
Neil, now
presents.
be honest, okay? You're on television, and so you're going to be seen by all these people watching. When you were a little boy, didn't you want to open those presents Christmas Eve, huh? Did you? Could you resist the temptation, Neil?
It's kind of hard to resist.
But it was the tradition not to open till Christmas Day.
till Christmas Day,
Yeah,
yes.
that's neat. Raphael, what was the happiest part of, or the most meaningful part of Christmas in Mexico for you?
Well, when I was a child, it was just opening the gift. Now it's just I'm going back to Mexico tomorrow, and Gethsemane people gave me a lot of gifts to take over there. So this time will be giving,
Yeah, you.
season of giving. But I had to make a comment.
Yes.
Over there, we hang the Christmas cards on the tree.
You put them
too.
on the tree also?
Yes,
Oh.
but I seen the mailman come to your house. If you want to hang your Christmas cards on your tree, you will need a tree the size of the Silker Park Christmas tree, because you get a whole bunch.
Thank you. Well, a lot of cards come, and that's really that's a treat. Christmas for you, Tootie, what is the most special part of it for you?
Oh, I think the family being together, especially since we're a small family. So, and now that we have in-laws, then we get together with a great big family, which we're really happy about. And it turns out to be, and it's the same thing there. All these little grandkids, they're just wonderful to be with. Children, it's for children. After
Of
you
all
once-
ages, maybe, huh?
Absolutely.
Neil, how about you? What's the most wonderful part about Christmas for you?
The festival of celebrating Christ's birth. Besides that, having a good time with the family, friends, and having lots of goodies and having good food.
Well, we thank you, all 5 of you, Peter and Olga, Neil. Thank you, Tootie. It's great. Thank you, Raphael. And it's our intent on Austin Faith Dialogue to wish for you and for yours during these 12 days of the Christmas season and on into the new year, the most blessed gifts that God can give to you. Maybe Olga did it best when I asked her before the program started, what did she remember best about her childhood, and her eyes were shining, and she said it was such a wonderful, beautiful time. Christmas can be, for you and for me, that type of beautiful time, a time of joy. And on this Austin Faith Dialogue, we've had the privilege to go around the world, and we've been to Mexico, and we've been to India, and we've been to Denmark and Czechoslovakia. And as you gather with your family and your friends, as you worship and as you open presents, may you know the gifts that God gives to all of us. Peace and blessings to you and yours. And we wish for you, dear friends, a most blessed and Merry Christmas.